Let's understand how the spinal cord works and what happens after spinal cord injury. Your nervous system is composed of brain, which is in charge of all body functions, and the spinal cord along with nerves. Spinal cord arises from the lower part of the brain and runs inside the backbone extending to the lower back. It is a bundle of nerves that act like wired connections between brain and different parts of body such as arms and legs. Through the spinal cord, messages are sent from brain to the body for movement, and messages of sensation are sent from the body to the brain such as touch, pain and temperature, etc. If a mosquito bites, your skin will send that sensation as a message to the brain via the wires in spinal cord. The brain will then send a message to your hand via different wires to move your hand to rub the bitten area. This circuit works only if wires are connected properly. If the wires are not connected properly or are damaged, the messages from the skin cannot get to the brain and the brain cannot direct limbs to move. Thus, after spinal cord injury, the brain functions normally, but can neither get the messages of sensations from the body, leading to sensory loss, nor can send the messages to initiate movement in the body, leading to paralysis. The extent of paralysis and sensory deficit depends on whether the injury is complete or incomplete. A complete injury is where the spinal cord is completely damaged at a particular level with loss of sensation and muscle movement below that level of injury. An incomplete injury is one where some sensation and movement below the level of injury are preserved partially. The spinal cord is divided into 5 divisions and 31 segments. Namely 8 cervical segments, which are responsible for functioning of the arms and hands, 12 thoracic segments, responsible for functioning of torso, 5 lumbar, 5 sacral, and 1 coccygeal segments responsible for legs, urinary, and bowel functions. If the injury happens at any of the segments between C1 and T1 segments, it results in a neck downward paralysis called tetraplegia or quadriplegia, which means weakness or paralysis in all the 4 limbs. If the injury happens below thoracic or lumbar level, it results in paraplegia, causing weakness or paralysis in the lower body. The level of injury refers to the lowest part of the spinal cord where both sensation and movement are preserved. The level of injury will determine the goal setting during rehabilitation. Remember, the level of injury is measured based on the functions preserved and not on the injury or fracture site. A traumatic spinal cord injury can result from road traffic accidents, direct assault to the backbone, falls from height, and sports. Non-traumatic spinal cord injuries are caused by diseases such as tumors, birth defects, bleeding, block in blood supply to the spinal cord, or infections like TB, etc. Let's start with the emergency phase, which is at the site where the injury is sustained. Any significant trauma must be considered a potential spinal cord injury unless proven otherwise with clinical assessment backed by radiological imaging. While shifting the injured from the accident site to the hospital, they should be lifted like a wooden log using a spine board and a collar. This restricted movement prevents further damage to the spinal cord and possibly reduces the severity of the injury. The injured should be shifted to the hospital as soon as possible, preferably by an ambulance. Immediately after spinal cord injury, also called acute phase, your body goes through a multitude of changes, which we will be covering in our subsequent videos. At the acute stage, everything done medically is to keep the person with spinal cord injury alive and preserve as much function as possible and prepare the survivor for rehabilitation. The spine is treated, other organs are medically stabilized to prevent further complications. We will discuss this stage in detail in our upcoming videos.